Have a very brief revision of the first two videos in relation to Mark Phillips' lies, omissions and perjury. So in the first pages of the affidavit in respect of Ronan Flynn, we have the very unusual circumstance that in August 2017, when Garda Síochána and Homeland Security first met with Ronan Flynn in August 2017, there was no mention of an extradition warrant or Ronan Flynn's drug dealings here in the Republic of Ireland. But when Garda Síochána returned to New York in October 2017, Homeland Security were aware of what Mark Phillips very eloquently puts, immigration issues. And those immigration issues were, as we now know, a European extradition warrant. So we have ascertained from that Garda Síochána have hidden the fact that they knew about the extradition warrant, which they must have known about because Garda Gill, who was Mark Phillips's clone and right-hand man, was involved in Ronan's arrest for the drugs and Ronan's arrest and prosecution in respect of a serious assault on Tommy Eccles in a bar in the Cooley Peninsula. And then when we move on to the second pages, this is where the lies are so blatant and so out there, they cannot be ignored. They cannot be ignored. So very quickly, this is all in respect of the interaction with Ronan Flynn on the 27th of October 2017. So Inspector Phillips tells us initially, Inspector Phillips was advised that this warrant would be executed prior to any interview between Ronan Flynn and the members of the Garda investigation team. Inspector Phillips was informed that once the matters in relation to the warrant had been processed, that Ronan Flynn would be asked if he wished to speak with the members of the Garda investigation team. So again, we've gone through this. It's quite obvious that the proper protocol here is that Ronan Flynn wouldn't be allowed to talk to members of the Homeland Security or members of the Garda Síochána unless his European extradition warrant had been dealt with. And being dealt with means one thing: Ronan Flynn should have been extradited. But then, in the same breath, 2 paragraphs later, this is the story told by this man here, the detective Mark Phillips. Ronan Flynn had been arrested. Again, something that has been hidden and to some degree denied by the Irish judicial system and very much by the Irish mainstream media, that these criminals were arrested and forced to give statements. Ronan Flynn had been informed that members of the Garda investigation team were present in New York and wished to speak to him. Ronan Flynn was agreeable. Inspector Phillips accompanied Sergeant Gill to the location where Ronan was seated in a vehicle. So we've covered this very clearly. So the 2 paragraphs here simply don't equate, because when Ronan was arrested, within 20 minutes or 10 minutes or 5 minutes, because we do know when Garda Síochána were there at Ronan's arrest when they told him he was never going to see his wife and child again. So there is no way that it is possible that the extradition warrant could have been cleared up. And he tells us here again, this is all on the 27th of October 2017. Members of the Garda investigation team travelled to the 47th precinct of the Bronx. While at the 47th precinct, Inspector Phillips was informed that Homeland Security investigations that Ronan Flynn had again been asked if he would be willing to speak to the members of the Garda investigation team. Ronan Flynn had agreed to this. Now, we've covered that in the last video. And again, this paragraph doesn't corroborate the first statement. So there's lies being told here, even without going into the detail of how the extradition warrant disappeared, which we are going to do now. And again, as I've said in the prelude to this, please watch carefully. And we have to say quite categorically that this is an absolutely disgusting and disgraceful behaviour by any judicial system in the way this was dealt with and how the extradition warrant was made disappear. So we're going to delve into video 3 now of Mark Phillips, lies, omissions, perjury. So we'll go into video 3 now. Thank you. So let's continue with this web of deceit and web of collusion and web of corruption. So we move now to November 2017. And in these correspondence we're going to see, we've looked at Paul Gill, Garda Mark Phillips working with or coercing this man here, Ronan Flynn, into making a statement, a false statement against our son, Aaron. So let's move on now and show you all the other people who were involved in making this extradition warrant disappear. So on the 21st of November, correspondence was received at Dundalk Garda Station from Garda Extradition Section, Garda Headquarters, who were in the process of conducting a review of European arrest warrants. 7 European arrest warrants were attributed to the Garda Division of Louth. Detective Inspector Pat Murray was assigned the task to conduct inquiries into the position regarding the warrants. So they want us to believe here, all of a sudden in November, now we have to go back, the dates, October 2017, Homeland Security were aware of Ronan Flynn's extradition warrant. Okay, we know that from the previous video. So here's Mark Phillips telling us that Pat Murray, the senior investigating officer, the head of the incident room, the head of Fort Apache Dundalk, as he put it himself in his own words. So 6 weeks later, Pat Murray didn't know anything about Ronan Flynn's extradition warrant. This is lies. This is not acceptable. This must be called out for what it is. And because it is so blatant and is so dirty and so mucky, Phillips can't even cover it up. Because there is a paper trail there, albeit very slight. But what we want is the full paper trail. And we must be afforded the right to look at all the interactions in relation to this extradition warrant. One of these warrants related to Ronan Flynn. This extradition warrant was related to an alleged assault by Ronan Flynn on Tommy Eccles in August 2011. Directions were received from the DPP to prosecute Ronan Flynn on an indictment of Section 4 Offences Against the Person Act. Prior to being charged with the offence, Ronan Flynn moved to reside in the United States. Not very pleasant. Ronan just popped over to reside in the United States. He's after battering a man to a pulp, left him in hospital. He's on drug charges and he's absconded and he's gone to reside, Mark Phillips tells us. Ronan's decided to reside in the United States of America. But the important part here is Pat Murray's involved now, Mark Phillips, Paul Gill. Okay, we have these people fully involved and the dates make no sense. They cannot add up. Homeland Security told Mark Phillips in 2017. So what's Phillips trying to tell us here? Oh, he forgot to ring Pat Murray and tell him there's Homeland Security have some paperwork here in relation to a European arrest warrant for someone we want as a witness. Are you for real, Mark Phillips? And as for Pat Murray, wait till you see what Murray does. Detective Inspector Murray spoke with Agent Matt Katsky. Yes, Agent Katsky's at it again. Who was at that time in New York. Detective Inspector Murray relayed to Agent Katsky that Tommy Eccles was seeking an apology from Ronan Flynn in writing. Agent Katsky passed this information to Ronan Flynn, who wrote an apology. Now, when we go over this again, I have numerous conversations recorded with Ronan Flynn, who denies completely that he wrote any apology to Tommy Eccles. I have a recording of Ronan's father telling us there was no extradition warrant and none of this existed. It was made up by the guards. Someone's telling lies. Someone, a complete and total deceit for everyone involved. an apology for Tommy Eccles on the 10th of December. On the 13th of December, December 2017, Detective Sergeant Reedy met with Tommy Eccles and relayed the apology from Ronan Flynn to him. On the 13th of December 2017, Tommy Eccles instructed his solicitor that he no longer wished to proceed with the matter in relation to Ronan Flynn. On the 14th of December 2017, Tommy Eccles the solicitors wrote to Detective Sergeant Reedy and advised him that he had been instructed by Tommy Eccles that he no longer wished to proceed with his complaint against Ronan Flynn. That's this letter here. So this is Tommy Eccles with the solicitors, who are Dermot Lavery and Company, as you can see up there. And this is dated, as we know, on the, is there a date on this? The 14th of December 2017. So Tommy Eccles' solicitor has contacted Ciarán Reedy and said Tommy Eccles has withdrawn his statement. Now, there's just one little bit of this statement I just want to read. We will be covering it in more detail, but he, as Tommy Eccles, has confirmed in the presence of the writer that he was not under duress or pressure to withdraw his complaint and has not been threatened or pressurized in any way to withdraw the complaint. How? Well then, why? Why Tommy Eccles? Why did Tommy Eccles withdraw the complaint against Ronan Flynn for a very serious assault that left him in hospital? How is that possible? What is the reasoning behind this? This is where we must get to the bottom of. This is the information we need. On the 14th of December, that's the letter we're after looking for. The solicitor wrote to Sergeant Reedy and advised him that he was instructed by Tommy Eccles that he no longer wished to proceed with his complaint against Ronan Flynn and wished to formally withdraw his complaint on personal grounds. Tommy Eccles advised that he had confirmed to him that he was not put under pressure, duress or pressure to withdraw his complaint and had not been threatened or pressurized in any way to withdraw the complaint. So again, me think the lady does protest too much. It's in the solicitor's letter, and Phillips wants to tell us again that Tommy Eccles wasn't pressured or put under any duress to withdraw his complaint. That may very well be true. We do not believe that. That is our objective. That is our right. Because we know the way these people work, how they coerce and put people under severe pressure that they normally wouldn't do. So this is the beginning of getting rid of the extradition warrant. Now there's more to it. I don't want to confuse it all, but very briefly, in August 2017, Homeland Security knew nothing about Ronan Flynn's extradition warrant, and it would appear that Mark Phillips and Paul Gill, who were in New York, were not willing to pass on that information to their American colleagues. Their American colleagues found out about it in 2017. In October 2017, in October that year. So the cat was out of the bag. And then we have this absolute nonsense and cover-up by Mark Phillips here, that on the 21st of November, the Extradition Warrants Unit in Dublin sent 7 European arrest warrants to be checked by Pat Marry. What's Pat Marry doing checking the status of extradition warrants? He's leading a murder investigation, a murder of a member of the Garda Síochána. So Pat Marry was passed on these. Maybe he is superhuman. He thinks he is himself. Notwithstanding that, we are led to believe that Dundalk Garda Station didn't know anything about the extradition warrant for Ronan Flynn until the 21st of November 2017, when Phillips has already told us that the Americans had told him about it in October 2017. So when you're telling lies continually, it's impossible to cover up completely the trail of destruction. So we want everyone to understand this is only the beginning of the end of the extradition warrant. And in the final, well, we'll show the final act of the play when Ronan Flynn's extradition warrant eventually completely disperses into the ether. And we want answers to those questions. So follow us in the next video. Please like, comment and share. You know we've been very heavily censored, very heavily shadow banned, and we need your help to share our story. So we'll see you once again when we finally look at how Phillips, Pat Murray, Agent Katsky eventually made Ronan Flynn's extradition warrant. If it existed, according to Ronan Flynn and his family, it didn't exist. If it existed, this extradition warrant was made disappear. So see you in the next video. Please like, comment, share.